it like having a business relationship and a marriage with the same man?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's really hard, but we're working on it.
Extraordinarily difficult to cope with the levels of attention that comes with fame, and consequently found myself becoming a bit of a hermit.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to another xoxo video. I hope you're all well. As you can tell from the title of this video, we're wondering what happened to British 80s singer Yazz, and where is she now? But before we get into the video, a very quick disclaimer. As always, this video is purely done for entertainment, informational and commentary purposes. It's not to mock anyone, it's not to disrespect anyone. It's purely various information I found on the interwebs put together into one easy to digest video. So we're going to keep it cute, we're going to keep it polite, we're going to keep it respectful, and let's get into the video. Yasmin Evans, professionally known as Yazz, was born on the 19th of May 1960. However, there are some sources which say she was born in 1963 in Shepherd's Bush, London, to an English mother and Jamaican father who worked as a station manager on the London Underground, according to nostalgiacentral.com. According to Wikipedia, Yazz attended Holland Park School and became a member of the England Under-19 volleyball team.
Yes. I did play volleyball for the Under-19 for England.
I know.
For 5 minutes. We were slaughtered, but however, it was great. It was, yeah. I was always a sporty type person. Right. You know, I'm kind of DNA'd up the arts and sport, that side of the brain, you know. The academic side is certainly something I had to develop.
In her interview with crossrhythms.co.uk, Yazz said this about her early life. I was born and educated in West London, Shepherd's Bush. My dear father was West Indian Jamaican and my mother English. They met and married in the UK during the middle 50s against much racial tension and family difficulties. They had 3 children, myself, my sister and my brother. I was the last. We were poor but lived simply and happily. Music was an integral part of our home. My father introducing me to some of music's greatest singers and writers, Ella Fitzgerald, Miles Davis, Dionne Warwick, Brooke Benton, Glenn Campbell. He played country, jazz, soul, blues, reggae and gospel. We were the proud owners of a sideboard that contained a long player system. They were very expensive at the time. We treasured it.
I am half Jamaican, half English, and my father was from Jamaica, Kingstonian, from the capital city. My mother's English, and we grew up in a very small basement flat. The 3 kids, I was the last one. Very colourful, obviously, West Indian style upbringing, lots of music, lots of soul food. And yeah, it was challenging, both challenging. This was the early 60s, so, you know, effectively, my brothers and sisters were the first generation of mixed race children to be born in England. There was a lot of racial tension going on. But where we lived, Shepherd's Bush, you know, it was a real minority area. We had the Irish, and we had the Jews, and we had the blacks. You know, that's what it was at that time. So there was a lot of kind of camaraderie between the different cultures.
Yazz eventually became a part of a music group called The Biz in 1983, according to Wikipedia. She told crossrhythms.co.uk, I would work in the day and got a job in a nightclub in Soho at night. That changed my whole life. I grew into the very real and dark world of drugs, guns and pimps. I thank God for his protection. As I got into some really dire situations, I became a DJ for 5 minutes. Then I got into my first band. I got into my first recording deal with a band called The Biz. We trapezed up and down the country doing gigs in bars. Yazz joined the band as a keyboard player. However, as she was terrible on the keyboard, she was relegated to the backing singer in the group, which she says she was also terrible at. However, she found that she actually loved to sing. So she found a day job and used her wages to pay for singing lessons. Eventually, she became the lead vocalist in the group.
Well, brother, that began probably after I'd left school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was doing regular office work jobs and stuff like that in the day. And I wanted to earn some extra money to go abroad. And I started to work in a club in a nightclub in Soho, which is in London. It's the central part of London for people, I don't know, listening. And it's probably the heartland of clubs and dives and the pretty dark world, really. Anyway, I got a job waitressing, and it was there really that I met people who were like-minded, if you like. They loved music, they were kind of free-spirited. I met people in bands, I met DJs, you know, I started buying records, I started hanging out with people, you know, in music, and I felt comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I knew then that this was a direction that I was going to go into. I didn't know how, but... And then from there, I got myself in a band, terrible band. We were awful, awful. I was keyboard player, I was terrible, and I was relegated to backing vocalist. And I was really bad at that too. So I started having lessons, singing lessons, and started to take it more and more seriously. Mm. And essentially, I joined a band, and we got some management, and we did what not many people do now, which is what we call track dates, which is where you go up and down the country and learn your craft.
There is hardly any information about the band on the internet. However, according to music.metacin.net, the Biz were a dance band which consisted of Austin Howard, Suzette Smithson, and Yazz. The group were eventually signed to a small record label called Magnet Records. According to discogs.com, the group released 2 singles in 1983, Falling and We're Gonna Groove Tonight.
Girl, you got me falling head over heels in love. We're gonna groove tonight, not tomorrow, but tonight.
However, none of the singles entered the charts, and the group eventually split.
Eventually, I got into a band as part of the lead singing of the group. And then from there, eventually we found ourselves with our first record deal with a record company called Magnet Records. It was a very small outfit. And I put my first record out with the band, which was called Falling. The track was called Falling, and it literally did fall. It was just a disaster. But anyway, I was in the music industry. We were starting to do club circuits. We were starting to get out onto some platforms and stages. And I was learning my craft. I was beginning to learn what it looks like to be a recording artist.
In her interview with crossrhythms.co.uk, Yazz said, "In between, I had met the managers of Wham, who were just becoming known, and I became managed by them. I began modelling abroad to make money to pay for singing lessons and demo songs, and finally was introduced to Cold Cut. So I went and met them and loved what they were doing. They were cutting edge, and we wrote Doctor in the House. Doctor in the House was released in early 1988, scoring Yazz her first commercial hit, as she sang lead vocals. The song was credited under the name Yazz and the Plastic Population, which peaked at number 6 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 9 weeks on the chart. The single also entered the charts internationally, peaking in several countries including the US, Germany, New Zealand and Belgium. Before entering the charts, Yazz was styling the members of Wham.
Because you did actually do a bit of styling for George Michael and Wham before you hit the charts.
Because of the connection to having the same management, I had the opportunity to work alongside Wham for a little while with George, just on a small level, in choosing some outfits and some ideas with him. Because Yazz had said, you're into style, you chat with George. And so, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed trying to find individualness and uniqueness.
She soon launched a solo career after signing with Big Life Records, a record label set up by Jazz Summers, who became her manager and then eventually her husband. Then, in July 1988, Yazz released what will be her biggest single to date, The Only Way Is Up. Again, this was credited under the name Yazz and the Plastic Population and was a cover version of the 1980 single by American soul singer Otis Clay, which peaked at number 1 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 5 weeks at the number 1 spot. The single, however, spent a total of a staggering 15 weeks on the chart. The Only Way Is Up was also an international hit, entering the charts in several countries including Sweden, New Zealand, Australia, France and Norway. According to Wikipedia, the single eventually became the second biggest selling UK single of the year. On the podcast Celebrity Catch Up in 2021, Yazz explained who the plastic population were.
But who were the plastic population?
Oh, of course. Okay, so that was definitely like a 4 a.m. idea, like you do. But yeah, being DJs, the boys said, look, okay, plastic is vinyl.
Okay.
And the population would be the buying public, as it were.
Ah.
So the buying public, hopefully buying our vinyl anyway. That's all it was, as simple as that. But it's pretty cool. I mean, at the time, it seemed a good idea. And it just established that I wasn't a solo artist. For them, it meant that, you know, we could add in other people if we wanted, featuring so-and-so, featuring so-and-so.
Yeah.
In October 1988, Yazz released the follow-up single, Stand Up For Your Love Rights, which peaked at number 2 on the UK singles chart, spent a total of 13 weeks on the chart. The single also entered the charts in several countries including the US, the Netherlands, Switzerland, France and Austria. Then in November that year, Yazz released her debut album, Wanted, which peaked at number 3 on the UK albums chart, spending a total of an incredible 32 weeks on the chart. The album also entered the charts in several countries including Sweden, Germany and Australia. The Wanted album went on to become certified double platinum in the UK in September 1989 for sales exceeding 600,000 according to Wikipedia. Also in 1988, Yazz won the award for Best Newcomer at the Smash Hits Poll Winners Party.
Thanks very much. I was really not going to cry.
In early 1989, Yazz released the single Fine Time,
Oh, this is a fine time to change your mind.
which peaked at number 9 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 8 weeks on the chart, making this Yazz's 4th UK top 10 hit. The single also entered the charts in several countries including New Zealand, Switzerland and France. Then, in April 1989, Yazz released what will be the final single from her album, Where Has All the Love Gone?, which peaked at number 16 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 6 weeks on the chart. The single also peaked at number 40 in Germany and number 86 in the Netherlands. In the same month, Yazz was on the front cover of the News of the World Sunday newspaper with the headline From Black Beauty to Blonde Bombshell, which was essentially insinuating that Yazz had whitened her skin, especially when looking at the images and considering the title the newspaper used for the spread, From Yazz to Dazz, the laundry detergent powder. The spread then goes on to show an image of Yazz in 1984 where she appeared darker skinned, a photo from 1985 and another from 1989, which is the image she burst onto the scene with. Yazz told Eden.co.uk in April 2012, I was devastated how the press attacked. There was this huge picture of me in the press. They had overdeveloped one photo and underdeveloped the other, so I looked really dark-skinned and really white. They said, Yazz goes Dazz. Yazz is using chemicals to whiten her skin. It's another Michael Jackson. That was wounding. From there, I didn't trust anyone in the media. There were constant lies to sell the paper.
It happens. I had terrible press in some things. I had photos put in the newspaper where they'd actually literally underexposed the photo. So I was very dark and said, Yazz goes Dazz or something like that, with another photo where they'd overexposed. And I just started my tour, I remember, and I was amazed at this world that I'd entered into. That could push and pull me emotionally from pillar to post on a regular daily basis.
In the same year, Yazz released an album titled The Wanted Remixes. In 1990, Yazz released the single Mega Mix, which was only released in France. In April 1990, Yazz gave birth to her daughter Rio. Then in June that year, she released what was supposed to be the lead single from her upcoming album, Treat Me Good, which peaked at number 20 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 5 weeks on the chart. The single also entered the charts in countries including the US and Germany. According to Wikipedia, a second Big Life album titled Revolution of Love was scheduled for release in 1990, following the single Treat Me Good. However, the album was shelved when Yazz parted ways with Big Life Records. In a news article obtained by Wayback Machine, Yazz had an 18-month break, allowing her to concentrate on motherhood and on writing a new album's worth of material. She also used this time to instigate some changes. Yazz eventually signed a new deal with Polydor Records and secured a new manager, following the highly publicised but amicable split with her ex-husband and manager Jazz Summers. And in early 1992, she released what was supposed to be the lead single from her upcoming album, One True Woman, which peaked at number 60 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 2 weeks on the chart. An album titled One True Woman was scheduled for release in May 1992, following the release of the single of the same name. However, the album was cancelled according to Wikipedia. By this time, Yazz had won several awards, including the Diamond Award for Best Single for The Only Way Is Up, Recording Artist of the Year from the Variety Club of Great Britain, and Best Female Dance Artist from DMC. Then, in July 1993, Yazz collaborated with British reggae group Aswad for the single How Long, which was a cover version of the 1974 single by Ace, which peaked at number 31 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 5 weeks on the chart. The single also peaked at number 52 in Germany. In April 1994, Yazz released the single Have Mercy,
Just let me get over you. Have mercy, mercy, mercy.
which peaked at number 42 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 4 weeks on the chart. The single also entered the charts in Germany, peaking at number 86 and spending a total of 5 weeks on the chart. Almost immediately, Yazz released her second studio album, One on One, which included some of the tracks recorded for the One True Woman album. However, the album did not enter the charts. But Yazz did release one more single from the album in July 1994, Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime, which was a cover version to the song originally sung by the Corgis,
Everybody's gotta learn sometime.
which peaked at number 56 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 3 weeks on the chart. Then around 1996 or 1997, Yazz released what would be the lead single from her upcoming album, Good Thing Going, which was a cover version and included vocals from Sugar Minott, which peaked at number 53 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 2 weeks on the chart. In March 1997, Yazz released what would be the follow-up single as well as the last single from her upcoming album, which was a cover of Never Can Say Goodbye,
Never can say goodbye.
which peaked at number 61 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 1 week on the chart. In the same year, Yazz released the album The Natural Life, which according to Wikipedia is an album of cover versions, after Yazz signed with a new label, East West Records. Also according to Wikipedia, The Natural Life was released in Japan, Australia and other parts of Europe, but not in the UK. However, the album did not enter the charts. In 1998, Yazz released the single Abandon Me, which has the lyrics from the single by Rose Royce, Love Don't Live Here Anymore, which peaked at number 78 on the UK singles chart, spending a total of 1 week on the chart.
Because there was quite a big gap between your first and second albums. I think like 6 years. And I think one reason was that's because you gave birth to your daughter, Rio.
That's right.
But also, as you mentioned, you split up with your husband at the time, and he was so inextricably linked to your career because he was your manager and owned the record label you were signed to. So you had to go through that process of finding a new label, pleasing those people. Mm-hmm. And I think there was an album that was shelved along the way somewhere. So did that whole experience kind of leave you feeling even more disillusioned with the music industry and more aware of how much of a business it is?
Oh, definitely. Yes, of course. Of course you are. You're emotionally roller coasting anyway in divorce. That isn't something that happens and then it's dealt with and it's gone overnight or in 6 weeks or a year. When you've invested your life and your love in a relationship like that, it demands time to be healed. And so that was very difficult. And obviously developing a new relationship with the record company. And so, I think you laid it out really well, really. I just was ready to stop. And unfortunately, I had a small operation which went wrong and I hemorrhaged badly. And was rushed back into the hospital and so on. And that kind of left me on very sick and in bed and reflective of, okay, what's going on with my life? What am I doing here? Can I really justify going in the studio and making this next album when really I hate it? It's not where I want to be. It's not how I want to be known. And that, so it was, in one way, it was bittersweet because it was in that time that I began to question things outside of myself and look for answers outside of myself.
According to Wikipedia, it was around this period that Yazz began to reevaluate her career choices. She told crossrhythms.co.uk in February 2008, "Success is measured in the world in such a sad way. What you've done, what you own, what you look like, how you speak, what you wear, all outward conditions and all temporary. I was completely and inextricably caught. I felt like a chased rabbit. Loving the music, the song, and desiring to become a better artist, I sang my heart out, but inside I was running. I was struggling desperately with all the attention on and off stage, finding myself around lawyers and men in suits, quite unable to understand their speak, with contracts formed and stylists employed. I remember being in one meeting being sold the idea that wearing what looked like a 90 would sell loads more records than jeans. It was like a circus."
What was more difficult, most of the arguments that I would have would be about imagery, to be honest. I was not going to be the push-up bra, lingerie type artist, So we had a lot of discussions with stylists coming in and literally holding up something that looked like a lingerie department. And I said, "You've got to be kidding. This message and that outfit, you really have not got who I am at all."
On her now defunct website, Yazz wrote about her struggles with fame. "Fame did not rest well on me. From day one, I struggled as an artist, balancing the attention of fame with the lust and greed in the business, affecting me both personally and professionally."
As much as I love singing and bringing music to people, I found it extraordinarily difficult to cope with the levels of attention that comes with fame, and consequently found myself becoming a bit of a hermit more and more.
So by the end of the first album, I was struggling. I was struggling with the fame thing.
She also told Eden.co.uk in 2012, "I had no control whatsoever. I was just this massive product. That was devastating when you realise you're a puppet." Due to the pressures and difficulties of fame, Yazz developed a dependency on alcohol and became a heavy drinker.
But I began to drink. I could drink a lot. I could drink a lot.
She also started considering her future after her failed marriage to former manager Jazz Summers. She said, "I clung to my manager/husband, and as we had no faith, no deep code of conduct to live by, we made decisions purely motivated by self. I learnt to wear a smile as I realised people wanted me to be happy because I was famous, and it helped me move around places without having to confess that I was dying inside, lonely and lost. My marriage was failing and I felt so very ashamed. I believed in marriage but had no concept of what it really meant to be married. I was gutted."
Anyhow, I had this smile, the Yazz smile, which I found, people expect that I'm going to be happy because I'm successful at the moment, and that was good. That kept people away. So I just smiled a lot, but inside, I was drowning. I was like, I'm not coping,
She also told Eden.co.uk, "My manager and my publisher were my husband. In effect, my husband owned me, and when we left each other, that's when I realised I'd been completely taken. I didn't have a lot of money at all. I was in a very dark place, thinking about my life and its true value."
What's it like having a business relationship and a marriage with the same man?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's really hard, but we're working on it.
Then my marriage failed, and of course it was public. And that was really difficult for me to deal with, the shame and humiliation of a failed marriage publicly. Where do you go? Who do you turn to? Who can help you with those situations? You were supposed to be the one that's super duper doing it and in control, which is of course not happening.
Yazz has also mentioned that she had suffered a breakdown and agoraphobia, which is most commonly defined as fear of leaving a safe place, usually the home. She then started to research various religions during this time, she said, and so began the search for deeper meaning. The music business leans towards Eastern philosophies plus the esoteric. I went to every seminar. I read everything from Buddhism to gurus to the Quran and the New Age umbrella of Eastern ideologies. But I judged Christianity by 2 visits as a child to a Baptist church. I chose to place my preconceived ideas upon it and said God isn't there. How poor and weak I was.
I was very needy, panicky, that I couldn't give you what you wanted. Connecting that to growing up, I wasn't the right colour, I didn't fit in there. All these things were all sort of coming in to collide and meet with each other. And that night I remember questioning my life and then just taking, I was in my bed, I didn't want to get out. It was just a mess really. And crying out to God, I think. I didn't know which God. I'd taken several avenues. I was reading a lot of spiritual books on Buddhism. I'd been reading the Hadith, the Quran.
The Caribbean islands obviously has some Christian content, and my father would often use some stuff from the Bible. If we were in trouble, he would say, Tata, the Lord says don't spare the rod, So you knew you were in trouble. Little things like that. Or we'd go out, when he wasn't working, he was a hard-working man. And he would take us out, some weekends, and he would say, look at the day the Lord has made. Look at the deer, So there were connections in my father's life, I would say, with the faith of Christianity particularly. But we didn't practice our faith at home. We didn't, I never experienced talking to God before. I never knew that was an option for me. So prayers and things like that. I believe, I've been told that we visited church a couple of times when I was so young, but that was not a regular feature in our home. I started this journey on the road to, there's got to be something bigger and greater than this. There has to be a reason and a purpose and a meaning for my existence. And so I went on a faith journey, and I started, reading about Buddhism. I met gurus, I bought crystals, I did yoga, I was searching for that higher attainment. And I was on that journey. And I met amazing people, all on the same journey, I wanted to know the truth of life. I wanted to know, I believed there was a source higher and greater. I didn't know if it was God or whose God or which God it was, That's what I wanted to know. And I wanted this God to have all authority.
Having previously dismissed Christianity, Yazz recalls one night where she found herself in bed at home and asked her mother for the Bible. She said we had one, and that night I opened it and read. I don't know what I read, and certainly I didn't understand it, but I remember peace falling over me like a river. A warmth flowed through me, a sense of belonging. In the morning, Yazz decided that she would go to church, and on that Sunday she did, but had an unpleasant experience. She left the church and walked up the road, where she bumped into an old friend who used to be her hairstylist. She told crossrhythms.co.uk, I turned the corner and met Bonnie, an old friend who used to bleach my hair, a woman of the booze, drugs and men scene. During coffee together, I asked Bonnie what had changed her life, for she was changed. She explained to me that she had placed her life by faith into the life of Jesus Christ, and that she was a believer. After Yazz explained her unpleasant experience at the church she had just visited, Bonnie suggested that Yazz attends her church. After a few visits, but especially after hearing the parable of the prodigal son, Yazz began her journey in turning her life over to Christ.
And so my journey continued into that church, and it was a small, very small church in North London, and it was warm, very inviting. People were relaxed, welcoming. And I remember, I think the second Sunday, I'd taken everyone, my daughter, my mother, and I remember that day sitting at the back of the church like you do. I was hiding, behind the pillar when you first start. And the pastor man was preaching on a story from the parable called The Prodigal Son. And it was as if he was talking to me that day. And I remember thinking, how is that possible, Eva? How is that possible? This is a 1,000-year-old book. It's weird because this book is talking to me today in the 21st century about my life.
In the year 2000, Yazz appeared on the ITV show Motown Mania, performing a cover of Diana Ross's single Love Hangover. This track was included on Yazz's compilation album titled At Her Very Best and All the Greatest Hits, which was released in 2001 via Universal Music. Following a break from the music industry, Yazz reinvented herself as a gospel singer, and in February 2008, she released the album Running Back to You, which was distributed in the UK by ICC. This album exhibited Yazz's spiritual journey and Christian faith. She told louderthanthemusic.com in 2011, "All the songs I have written were inspired by conversations I have had through prayer, inspired by scriptures, life situations, precious family and friendships, the good times and the bad." In May 2012, Yazz visited the Sutton Christian Centre. According to an article on yourlocalguardian.co.uk, she sang and spoke about her experiences since she first entered the spotlight in 1988. She also shared how fame made her feel crushed, destroyed her marriage, and evoked a nervous breakdown and a series of panic attacks before turning to Christ. In November 2016, a 3-CD remastered deluxe edition of the Wanted album was released via Cherry Pop Records, which included the original tracks from Yazz's debut album, Wanted, as well as B-sides and remixes. According to smoothradio.com, Yazz has been based in Spain for several years, where she built a Baptist church in Calahonda, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, and has devoted her life to spreading the word of God. She told crossrhythms.co.uk, "My church, the Calahonda Baptist Church, is a small but very powerful bunch of believers and praise God deeply here in Spain." Also in an interview with Cross Rhythms, it was stated that Yazz also works with drug addicts and alcoholics, and alongside the Christian charity REMA, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, which is an abbreviation of a Spanish phrase which means rehabilitation of people on the margin of society. It has also been stated in an article in the Sunday Express newspaper in May 2010 that Yazz headed up her ministry, Fame to Freedom, and met her second husband, Enrique, on holiday in Spain. After a year, she moved in. According to reallifestories.org, in August 2009, Yazz performed with the full band on stage for the first time in many years. In October 2010, Yazz performed again with the full band at the Huddersfield Christian Fellowship in Yorkshire. Also around this time, Yazz's hit single, The Only Way Is Up, was used as the official theme song to the ITV2 reality TV series The Only Way Is Essex. In 2011, she recorded her second gospel album titled This Is Love. In November 2017, Yazz released a book titled Pearls of Great Price, which is a collection of inspirational true stories written by women on their faith journeys.
Well, award-winning recording artist Yazz has written a book. It's a compelling collection of 20 insightful stories from women who she met whilst on her music tours. They include a HGV driver, cleaner, a nurse, a money launderer, a drug dealer, some mothers, and a poet, and many more. And they all uniquely define the treasure that they hold in common, which is their faith story.
In 2018, Yazz made her British TV comeback and performed her huge hit, The Only Way Is Up, on This Morning to mark the 30th anniversary of both the TV show and the track. According to her Instagram bio, Yazz is a mother, believer, cosmopolitan, vocal coach, creative artist, and lover of the groove. It also appears that Yazz is still living in Spain, where she has resided over the past 2 decades, and where she continues to teach as a vocal coach. Yazz has said on the Celebrity Catch-Up podcast in 2021 that she continues to write gospel music and does not know if she will ever release secular music. Yazz is pretty active on Instagram and Facebook and appears to be doing well. And that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you've all enjoyed. For those of you who made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you all in my next video. Over and out.